Dearly redheaded, we are choosing consciousness today to get through this thing called grief. Interesting word, grief. It means love, which makes for a mighty good joke. But I'm here to tell you, there's nothing else. Just joy. And if the big picture tends to bring you down, go crazy once your life goes. Woo!
I know, and I think we did a really good job, but because of the half-hour limitation, my limitation, I think I told you that these cater to commuters driving in their cars and tuning in, so I'm trying to explain who you are in this first episode, and now we're going to explain, what then happened. And that starts with Brandon, your older son's daughter, being born in 2011. Go ahead and tell Olivia's story, please.
All right. So my oldest son, he's now a retired county sheriff. He was the sergeant in the sheriff's department. But in 2011, his wife, Kate, was pregnant, and they were actually going on a vacation because you got to travel before the third trimester. So they were actually going to Florida to visit her grandmother for a week or something. But I get a phone call, and it's Brandon. So I think he's just calling, hey, because I'm giving him a ride to the airport. Well, I answer the phone, and he's like, Dad, we're at Northern Dutchess Hospital, and they're taking Kate in right now, emergency cesarean delivery. A normal pregnancy is about 39 weeks. This was at 28 weeks. So Olivia was coming a full 11 or 12 weeks early. So she had an emergency cesarean delivery. Olivia was immediately transferred down to Vassar Brothers Hospital in Poughkeepsie to the NICU there, where she spent 27 and a half of her 28-day life. I was lucky enough, the company that I work for, delivering fuel, I was able to get out of work early enough every single day. She was 28 days old when she passed away. I did not go to the hospital after work 2 of the 28 days that she was alive. I was smitten. This is my first grandchild. She's beautiful. She's just tiny. She was born a micro preemie. She is literally fit in the palm of your hand. She was 2 pounds. But she had issues. Nothing was quite developed yet. Nothing was really ready to be born. When you're born at 39 weeks, you're really still not ready to be born yet. Things are still developing, and you really don't finish developing until you're a teenager. But on the 27th day, a Saturday night, I get a phone call from my daughter-in-law asking if I could take a ride over to the hospital. Her and Brandon were in Pennsylvania picking up a custom-made. They had an Amish furniture maker making Olivia's crib. They were there picking up the crib. And whatever turned south at the NICU, Olivia was having difficulties. I was not on the list, if you will. I was grandpa, but I wasn't mom or dad, so I was given very little information. I sat vigil through the night. The following 12 or so hours turned out to be the most difficult time. I'm now 65. Then I was 51. it's 14 years later, and I have tears running down my face. Olivia ultimately was flown to Albany Medical Center to have surgery on her intestines. She was having what's called NEC. It's necroendo something or other, but her intestines were literally, they weren't developed all the way. They weren't ready to be fed. I don't know, And of course, they're trying to fatten these little babies up to send them home. But her intestines couldn't handle it. They sent her up to Albany to have surgery to repair her intestines. We dashed to Albany. They fly her by helicopter, and we beat the helicopter to Albany because they couldn't get her to stabilize. They were on the tarmac, on the pad outside Vassar Hospital, trying to get her vitals stabilized so they could take off and fly. So we did the drive. Of course, I'm out of my mind. So I was probably, and I would never say it publicly, but I might have been speedy. She arrived up at Albany. They took her right in. They did an evaluation. And now it went from 7 o'clock in the morning to 6 o'clock in the evening on a Saturday. And I'm in a waiting room. My daughter-in-law, Kate's dad, Bill, is there. Brandon and Kate are in the NICU. They're getting a consultation from the team. And Brandon and Kate come out. And they're like, there's nothing that can be done. She's already endured multiple blood transfusions, and there were just a number of things that needed to be dealt with as she was over in Vassar. So the decision was made that it's likely she's not going to survive the surgery. So they made the decision to not go further and let God take it into his hands. And we all went in to a special area. They had screens around for privacy, and Bill held her, and Bill handed her to me. And when I handed her to Kate, they discontinued. They removed all the life support stuff, and they discontinued life support. And I watched my son and his wife, Kate, convulse in grief as Olivia passed away in their arms. That single moment, with all the loss that you have in life, but that single moment changed who I am. And, I left the hospital that night and I went home, and I can tell you with certainty the best hug I ever received came from my son Liam when I got home. And who cries on there? How old was Liam in 2011? 15 years old or something?
Yep.
Just crying on his shoulder and grateful that he was okay. But I woke up the next morning, as I did on Sunday mornings. The whole time Olivia was at Vassar. I stopped at the local supermarket. I bought a dozen muffins or donuts. I was rotating every other week, and I went to the NICU at Vassar Hospital. I was greeted outside the NICU by all the nurses, and we cried in the hallway. And they wanted to know what happened because they weren't on shift. I didn't really know a whole lot because at that point in time, I did not have the knowledge I have today. And I got back in my old van and I drove back to Albany Medical Center and I went to the chapel and I sat in that chapel, saying, why me? You know, a little side note, my mom passed away in 1965 after that automobile accident. My brother was born at Vassar. My mom was shipped to Albany Medical Center to try and repair her injuries. My mom passed away, so I sat in that chapel and I came to the conclusion that the reason Olivia was taken there was because it was the last place. It's where my mom left this realm. And it was the easiest point for her to come back and scoop up my little granddaughter in her arms and take her to heaven. That gave me a little bit of relief. I spoke with my youngest brother on the phone while I was in that chapel. I look back now, it's like just all these things just connected at that kind of little moment. Yep. The little moment was probably a half an hour or an hour or something. I don't even remember the timeline. But I ended up getting back in my van and I was driving down the New York State Thruway, listening to my iPod, and a song called Dreams comes on, Allman Brothers tune. One more morning, I have to wake up with the blues, pull myself out of bed, and put on my hiking shoes, climb up the mountain to see what I could see, the whole world falling down in front of me. There I am, hammering down the road, crying. I get to my best friend's house. His name is Greg. I wake him up, and he's like, "What?" He sees I'm distraught, and he's like, hold on, dude. I'm going to jump in the shower. Let me put this music app on. I just got it. It's an Allman Brothers. First song comes on. It's the same song, Dreams. Now I'm sitting at his table in his family room, and I'm crying again. I did a lot of crying. I still do. That night when I went home, I found that I had done a bunch of road trips back when my youngest son, he and I would just load our camper up and put it on the trailer hitch, and we would go away for a week to. Well, I think our longest trip was 3 weeks. So we would ride around the countryside, going to amusement parks and national parks and scenic byways and museums and Hall of Fames and all. And somewhere on one of those trips, we went down the Blue Ridge Parkway, and there was a sign that said, like the highest point in North Carolina. And I remember going, "Hey, Liam, what do you say we go check out this highest point in North Carolina?" And by that point in the day, we had probably already stopped at 10 other points of interest along the route. Beautiful ride. If you've never done it, I recommend it. So I pull out this book, and I go flip it through.
Perry, yep. I want you to save what you're about to say. Selfishly, I want you to save. Do you remember what we talked about yesterday with synchronicities?
Like I said, I kind of, no, I don't.
That was the first time that Blue Ridge location was put on your radar.
Yep.
But you and Liam decided that was not the time to visit.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Okay, so just
on that.
Go ahead.
On that trip, whatever year that was, Liam kind of rolled his eyes, actually, and said, "Oh, Jesus, another stop." And we continued our way down to Asheville. And then it was the years later that I discovered.
Wait, don't say it. Don't say it. I want you to talk about Hannah.
Okay.
I'm being a little selfish here, but this
I know, but the reality is Hannah came later. Hannah was 2011. But yeah, I came home from that visit at my buddy Greg's house, and I found that book, and I rifled through it, and I found the name of that mountain is Grandfather Mountain, which I hadn't known that before. And I sat at that table, which I'm actually sitting at now, and cried out loud, going, "You cannot make this stuff up. This is incredible that I'm being drawn to this mountain to go see what I can see."
Got you. I thought you had learned the name of it after Hannah, so forgive me.
No, Hannah was 2012, and but Liam and I did do a road trip down to see an Allman Brothers concert in Florida, and we took that route on the way back, and we stopped at Grandfather Mountain, and as we got up there, it was very windy. There was a storm front pushing through, and I was viewing Grandfather Mountain as a place for me where I can stand with my 2 feet on the ground and be as close as I could get to heaven, and I could give God a piece of my mind. That why would you do this to my son and his wife? Why would you take my granddaughter to heaven? What is going on? And we walked out. They call it the Mile High Swinging Bridge. It's not a mile high. It's a mile above sea level. It's not made of wood anymore. It's metal. It doesn't swing so much. But we went out there, and we were told when the winds get to 60 miles an hour, they close the mountain, and you couldn't hear yourself. The wind was so strong. And we left there as we were headed towards the car. I had no moment. I did not have my moment. And we headed towards the car, and the wind was so strong it blew the glasses off of Liam's face. So a couple of months later, and I want to say about now, in July of 2011, I went back with my buddy Greg on a separate road trip because I was compelled to. I had to go there, and I went up on that mountain, and it was a tranquil day. There were few visitors, so I really I put myself out there. I was like towards the edge, and you just look out, and as far as you could see, it's beautiful. If you've never been to the Blue Ridge Mountains, it is very much like the Hudson Valley. It goes on forever. It's just the horizon beyond the next horizon. And, I screamed and I cried and I yelled, I begged, and I left an awful lot on that mountain, including a picture of my granddaughter. I bought like an awesome card case, like you would buy to put a Babe Ruth card in. It had the screws on each corners. I sealed it up tight, and I put a picture of her. She's up there in a crevice somewhere on Grandfather Mountain because I'm a grandfather, and that's where I go. So yeah, that year went by pretty quick. Brandon and Kate were told they should probably pause in their quest to have children. But it was Thanksgiving week. We went to a local restaurant, and Brandon slides a sonogram picture over, and they announced that Kate is pregnant. And we're jubilant. We're like, oh my God, like how cool is that? Oh, but if you look close, you'll see there's 2. Like, what? Kate's pregnant with twins. My ex-wife is a twin. So apparently runs on that side of the family. In February of 2012, Two little babies were born, both premature, born at 26 weeks gestation. Um, so they are even earlier than Hannah was. They're in Albany Medical Center because Brandon and Kate were not taking any chances. They were going to a high-risk pregnancy doctor who worked out at Albany Medical Center, and they're like, we're basically cutting out the middleman, and we're going right to where the big guns are if anything goes wrong. Kate was in the hospital on bed rest already and went into labor. And, I was, like, holy crap, here we go. And, Olivia, not Olivia, that was Hannah. Hannah was born, and Eli were born. In the meantime, at some point I was at a music festival up at Hunter Mountain called Mountain Jam, and I walked through there. I had very little knowledge of the March of Dimes, and we had done a march in memory of Olivia at the walkway over the Hudson. That's my experience. I'm walking through a festival, and they have an area called Awareness Village. And I'm walking through, and I go, I wonder, Awareness Village is a bunch of not-for-profits, American Heart Association, Family of Woodstock, the River Keeper, get the vote out. There were 10 or 12 different not-for-profits that were represented there. Geez, I wonder if they'd let me do that for the March of Dimes. A couple of months later, like over the summer that year, I sent an email to the radio station that runs the festival. I went and interviewed with them. They heard my story about Olivia, and it touched their heart, and they thought it fit in with the March of Dimes, fit in with their human health-related kind of things. And I was accepted. And then I got in touch with the March of Dimes and said, holy crap, I need your help. I don't know what I'm doing. And, of course, they were jubilant to have somebody volunteer. And they set me up. So I kind of completed a goal that I'm going to go bring the March of Dimes up onto that mountain and for Mountain Jam. And it's going to kind of fulfill this thing I was thinking I could do to deal with the grief of losing Olivia. I could try and make that not happen for the next family. I could be a part of the team, if you will, that's looking into premature birth and looking into the after effects of being born way too soon and how can we fix that and whatever. So I was psyched. I was going to be able to go do something. And a positive thing, I donated blood, and that was kind of my way of paying back people. I still donate blood. I've donated over 7 gallons. But it was my way of giving back to those who gave me, because without their blood, Olivia wouldn't have survived 28 days. Without the research the March of Dimes does for little preemie babies and their moms and their families, Olivia wouldn't have survived 28 days. So that was my thought process, that I could do these things in memory of Olivia. Then the twins are born, and we have Hannah and we have Eli that are up at Albany Medical Center struggling basically for survival. Eli had several surgeries. He had heart surgery. Hannah also had different procedures done, and they were kind of tag teaming back and forth, if you will, between their good days. One would have a good day, one would have a bad day, and it was bouncing back and forth. And I got a call from Brandon. I was in New Paltz. I got a call from Brandon, and he said that Olivia had a bad night. They're not sure what's going on. It's in the intestines again. They don't know if it's the same disease that Olivia had, but she's in surgery right now. So I jump in the car and I zoom up to Albany. And when I got in the parking lot, I sent Brandon a text that I'm here. He said, I'll meet you by the elevator. And when the elevator doors opened and he was crying, I knew it didn't go well. And she had the surgery, and she passed away in recovery at 35 days old. And there I was, back in that same damn chapel, on my knees, going, why? What? I know I haven't been a perfect human being. I've done some bad, but I've done some good, you know. Why? And but it really kind of set a fire under me. It was a tough time getting through that. And but I kind of upped my game. I'm like, I'm gonna take the March of Dimes any place they'll let me set it up. To this point now, this is Olivia would be 14, so 14 years later, I've set up at hundreds of events. I've actually, as an individual, I've raised over $100,000 through a water jug where people throw their change in, and a couple of singles, and people who have some kind of knowledge of what the March of Dimes is all about. I've had people, throw 20s and 50s in, but as a one guy crusade with a couple of friends helping them out, I'm proud to say that I've made a difference. If my granddaughters were born today, they would survive because of the research the March of Dimes has done. They figured out that it had to do with the formula that was being used in the hospitals everywhere. Sadly, you'll now see commercials on TV. If you lost a preemie, contact this lawyer's office. But none of that stuff brings back or erases or changes the past. So I've kind of, in my soul, in the memory of my granddaughters, I'm trying to change the future, and continue. Like I said, I donate blood because little babies need it. They may not get my blood, but if they need it, it's there. I don't really know the criteria for any of that stuff. But I had to figure out a way to deal with the grief. I literally, I think it was 5 days off, and I don't remember the dates right now because my brain is a little foggy. But I believe Hannah passed away about 5 days before the 1 year anniversary of Olivia's death.
I'm so sorry.
So there I was, as a 52-year-old grandfather who has 3 grandchildren, but there's only one of them that I can actually sit and hold, and, hear cry. I never heard Hannah and Olivia never cried. They always had feeding tubes and oxygen things, and, you never heard them cry. They were in little isolettes. To this day, I smile when I hear a child crying in a restaurant. How many other people are ticked off they spent bank to go out to dinner, with their significant other, and they're like, some kid spoiling my night out, and I sit there with a grin going, what I would give to hear them cry. It's but I had to figure out, I had to, I couldn't let it go. Many other people, I found out that the loss of a child is not spoken. Everybody's afraid to mention to a parent or a grandparent, sorry for your loss. How many years has it been since that loss? And I think that's one of my strategies within my mind is I speak their names. How many times since we've been talking? You know, I think it's important that they be remembered. Um, somewhere in the midst of all of my grief, somebody introduced me to a book I don't remember the name of, but there was a line in it that was, or a paragraph. I actually saved it somewhere in my phone, but the gist of it is, how do you know you didn't complete God's purpose for you here on earth? So it's irregardless if you live to be 110 or you live 28 days, or sadly for some families, they're still born. They're little babies. A friend of mine's son passed away during childbirth, strangled on his umbilical cord. But some baby, so how do we know that you haven't completed God's mission, even if you only lived an hour? And it just kind of, maybe that was Olivia and Hannah's mission, was to enlighten Perry to, I don't know, what is going on. But like, for me to be the one, with the spotlight shining on all these NICUs, 15 million babies a year are born premature around the world. 1 million of those babies a year don't survive to their first birthday. I'm the grandfather of 2 of those babies that didn't survive to their first birthdays. One in 2011 was Olivia, and 2012 was Hannah. And I'm still out there. I'm setting up at the county fair in a few weeks. I was at a music festival 2 weekends ago. I'm wearing a March of Dimes T-shirt right now. I have their names tattooed on my left wrist because I used to wear March of Dimes wristbands that I got at the March for Babies. In their memory, I figured the left wrist is as close as you can get to your heart, so that's where they are, and they'll be with me forever. And I've had a few people want, hey, what's your wrist? What's your tattoo on your wrist? So those are my granddaughters. They both passed away, and then that opens up a dialogue, and then I can share some of the story and shine the light that, hey, some of us don't survive as long as we have, and my granddaughters will never be forgotten by any of us that are family members and close to me and my friends and whatever. I think it's important to keep their legacy going and to know the impact that 2 little girls, one at 28 days old and one at 35 days old. So we got like a 63 days between the 2 of them here on Earth, and look at what they've done to me, for everyone around me. I think it's
Agreed.
it's a special bond that I have with my granddaughters.
Yeah. Agreed.
It's not here on Earth. It's spiritual what's out there. The birds and the tree and the flowers and the garden.
You got it. You got
You
it.
know?
Yep. I'm sorry for misunderstanding earlier. I thought Grandfather Mountain was found after the loss of Hannah, so thank you for clarifying. I'd also like to end this episode with Eli is 13, and
Yeah.
and Benjamin came along and he's 8.
Yeah, Benjamin's 8. So I'm the grandfather of 4, all born premature, and 2 of them pass away. But there's also the focus of there's the 2 that survived.
Right.
That are just my world.
Yeah.
Trying to, both little hockey players. Eli's on the crew team with his school. Benjamin's a little worker man. So so out of all the grief, and for my son and his wife, they got their hands full with the 2 little guys that are out there probably right now zooming around the yard on a 4-wheeler or something crazy. So it was one of the lessons my son taught me was after a certain amount of time he'd lost both of his daughters. He's like, yeah, I'm going back to work. I just got to put my boots back on and get back to living because I can't continue to grieve. Not that he doesn't still grieve. I know he does. But, he pulled himself back onto his feet and he went back to work, even though he didn't need to. All of his fellow guys he worked with donated their sick time. He had unlimited sick time. They said, just put our sick time on Brandon and it's fine. Whenever he's ready to come back, cool. But if he's not ready to come back, he doesn't have to worry about getting his paycheck or whatever. So it was really, but yeah, that was a lesson. And I still put my boots on and get out there and go do what I got to do. He has my lesson. My teacher. My son is the teacher in some things in life.
Right.
That's just how it works. But,
are you ready to talk about your alter ego and start a new episode with?
Yeah, if you want to hang on a second, I got a cat here that doesn't want to be here anymore. So I'm just going to put the phone down and bring Hemingway is his name.
Good one.
He was fighting at my left hand as we've been talking. But he's my buddy. He spends a little time with me out here in the gazebo. He likes it. It's close. We don't let him roam free because we want him to be safe. There's coyotes and stuff up here.
Yeah.
So I want to put the phone down for a second. I'll drop him in the back door, and I'll be back.
Go for it. Thank you, Perry.
Thank you for listening and supporting Natural Born Redhead. If you follow the bouncing balls, please like and subscribe. If you know someone interested in sparing others grief and inciting joy, message me on Facebook or reach out via my website, Natural Born Redhead. J-Ma.